It had fuel, it had spark, it had good timing, but it did not have good compression. I was able to convince myself that that was because of a bad cam phaser. Are we seeing a trend yet? Also soaked them for a bit with some brake clean. Doesn't even try. Take a look at Exhibit A. So this thing must be burning a lot of oil. That's not going to work. 3 of them are cracked, and 1 of them has a whole piece completely broken out. That reluctor wheel is about 180 degrees off from where it should be. I think we've passed the mandatory procrastination phase, so we're ready to start putting this thing back together. There are some things you have to keep aligned on the pistons. The second ring has a mark. It's a little dimple right there. That needs to face up towards the top side of the piston, and then the gaps need to be staggered. You know, they don't have to get super scientific about that. Just make sure that there's not 2 of them right next to each other that are close to lined up, and then the arrow needs to face towards the front. The rods, these are fractured rods, so they actually make them as one piece and then put them in a machine and break them. And then, I don't know if they machine them first, then break them. Then I'm guessing they put them back together and then finalize the size with like a hone or something. I don't know. Anyway, there's one boss here that is larger than the other 3, and that needs to face towards the front. So this rod goes in just like so. We've got ourselves a new wrist pin. I've already installed the circlip on one side. There we go. Now there's some superstition about these circlips that you're supposed to have the gap either at the top or the bottom, because I guess if they're on the side in like super high performance applications, like a like a dragster or something, that they can actually smash down enough to pop out. In a 2013 Equinox, I don't think that's going to be a problem, but I guess you never know. And I went ahead and bought new rod bearings. They're super cheap. I mean, we don't really need them, but just didn't seem quite right to put the old rod bearings into these different rods, even though these aren't new. I don't know, it just didn't seem quite right. There's a lot of superstition involved in rebuilding engines. Probably because it's so stressful. People find things that work and then they don't want to change them. Those are ready for the engine. I don't know, the rings on these modern engines are so tiny. Your traditional ring compressors really just don't work anymore. Not sure the juice is worth the squeeze with this tool. Let's try a little trick here. Put one of the old pistons on top. Like so. Are we seeing this? What is the problem? According to the internet, this is the best ring compressor you can buy. And I've tried it 3 times and it has not worked at all. So I'm going to make some quick modifications. We'll just put that back into storage so we don't lose it. Three out of 4 is not so bad, right? Unfortunately, we cannot install number 2 because I screwed up. That was not too smart. That's not going to work. Oh well. What's another $50 at this point? Let's try this again. That's how it's supposed to work. These are new bolts, and they get torqued to 20 Newton meters and then another 85 degrees. Bottom end's done. I'm going to leave the oil pan off for now, just in case something happens, because you never know. Well, since I had to wait for parts anyway, I went ahead and ordered some new exhaust valves. It makes zero financial sense to grind these valves. You can buy a full set of 8 for like $25. I just did that because I naively thought I could get the thing back together and get it out of here without having to wait. Drop in our brand new cam. Ooh, sounds like thunder, Max. Is that why you're cowering over here by me? Now, if I was a shrewder man, I would make some kind of a fixture to measure the alignment of the reluctor wheel, and then I would retime the old camshaft, maybe even weld it or pin it in place, and then send this one back. But I'm not, so I won't. Okay, gotta put some sealer on this, pop it back on, and then that's it, the head's done. Stick on our new gasket and grab some anti-seize. Well, can't find the usual anti-seize, so we'll have to use the weasel squeeze. Actually a pretty good idea. So you got this pressurized container, you just push the little trigger and out comes the anti-seize. Keeps your fingers far away from the glitter. Drop on our exhaust manifold. I have never seen one of these 2-4 exhaust manifolds that wasn't cracked, and true to form, this one is cracked. I used to get all worried about it and try to braze them or replace them, and then I just stopped worrying about it. Like I said, I've never seen one that wasn't cracked, and it doesn't seem to really hurt them, so let it go. We'll drop on our head gasket. It does say top, but I don't think you can put it on upside down because it won't fit over these dowel pins. This goes on dry. You don't need any kind of additional sealer. Pretty sure I blew out all the holes for the head bolts. I just want to check and make sure. They tend to fill up with coolant and oil when you pull the head off. And if you don't clean them out, the head bolts will get hydraulically locked when you try to thread them in. Usually doesn't work out very well. There we go. Of course, we got brand new head bolts. These are torqued to yield, like just about everything on these engines. I don't know, Toyota has torque to yield fasteners and they let you reuse them, but that's too easy for General Motors. And then Ford, they're even worse. Go read a Ford service manual. It'll tell you to replace every single bolt on the vehicle. Every time I go to the Ford dealership to buy parts, I ask them when they're going to put the addition on to the parts storage room for all the bolts they replace. Parts guy just laughs at me. Why do actual engineering when you can just cover your ass? Tell the customer to replace everything. But I'm not bitter. I'm supposed to torque these to 30 Newton meters. And then go an additional 155 degrees. Here we go, 155 degrees. About right there. Okay, tighten those to 35 Newton meters. Oh no. No, no, no. Remember when the head was off and laying on the bench? That would have been a great time to know that 2 of the exhaust manifold studs were broken. I think they've been broken for quite a while. Of course, not completely broken. They were strong enough to survive taking it apart. They just weren't strong enough to survive putting it back together. One of them came out nicely. The other one did not. It got ugly. We ended up with a helicoil. 9 p.m. I think that's enough for one day. In hindsight, I kind of wish I would have just pulled the head back off. I think I would have been time and money ahead. But here we are. And since I'm already in up to my neck, I'm going to go ahead and replace the cracked exhaust manifold with this brand new one. And I also got some brand new studs. They are not the for real studs. These are for a Ford F-150. But I, for real, don't care. I think they'll be good enough. Oh. That's all right. We can do it the hard way. Don't you worry. There we go. Yeah, come on. There. Okay, good. I'm reaching the end of my patience. And I've got a lot of patience. Guess we found the rest of the timing chain guide. That's pretty crazy. I'm gonna put a little bit of this anaerobic sealer on the pickup tube. This oil pan casting is horrific. I don't know what happened. Well, I do know what happened. They had some kind of a shift in the mold or something, and there's a big bubble here and here. And you can see it's kind of nicely machined along the inside of here, this chamfer. But then over here, somebody just went at it with an angle grinder or disc sander or something. That thing is ugly. Oh, there's probably some kind of for real installation tool for this pickup tube. I skipped ahead and installed the timing chain, and the mark lines up with the mark. Stick on our little spacer, and oh, that's oil everywhere, all over my arm. Like I was saying, go ahead and reinstall the cover. Oh, it's still dripping. Just give it back to me. Stupid car, you've taken enough. There it is. Hi, pup. It's okay. You can hang out with me. It's time. My wife told me if it doesn't start, I have to give up. So let's hope it starts. I don't have a good feeling about it. Well, that's something. That's something. That's more than we've ever had. Let's crack the door here before we all die. Kind of sounds like it has an exhaust leak. Fantastic. All it needed was everything. It is running. I just fired it up for the first time. Was the exhaust leaking? Okay. Coolant temperature looks good. No lights on. It's got all kinds of rattles and squeaks and horrible noises. I don't know if the tires are shot or wheel bearings or suspension's falling apart. Something's wrong. But the engine sounds fine. Now, you said the exhaust's been leaking for a long time. We're not supposed to worry about that. I think one of the bolts in the flanges is broken. I don't know what that is. It's very annoying. Okay. Looks good. As far as I'm concerned, this thing is done. I'm going to send it home. And I kind of hope that I never see it again. I really don't have concrete answers for what happened. But let's not let the facts get in the way of a good story. Just to review, the car was running fine. It made some funky rattling noises through a P0017 code and never even tried to run again. We found a broken timing chain guide, a broken cam phaser, low compression, leaking valves, leaking rings, cracked wrist pin bushings, and a shifted exhaust cam reluctor. I think there are 3 separate, possibly completely unrelated issues. The wrist pin bushings, I think that's a factory defect. The bushings are tapered, which is unusual for a gas engine, but it's really common for diesels. The taper makes them a little bit lighter and a little bit more efficient. The catch is you got to have special tools and you got to be very careful when you press them in. I don't see any evidence that the bushings spun in the rods. I don't even know how they could. I think they were pressed in wrong from the factory. They didn't get them indexed right. The taper on the end of the bushing didn't line up with the taper on the rod, and part of the thin bronze bushing was just hanging out there in the breeze. It's no surprise that it cracked. The carbon buildup on the valves, the pitted exhaust valves, the clogged up oil rings, that's just bad luck and or bad engineering. Some combination of low tension rings, gasoline direct injection, and just general age and mileage led to severe oil burning and blow-by. It's kind of a double whammy. The rings don't seal, so oil creeps up past them, gets burned, and creates carbon deposits on the exhaust valves. Then compression gases creep past the rings the other way and pressurize the crankcase. That forces more oil vapors through the PCV system. Those vapors go past the intake valves and cause carbon deposits there. It's really a lose-lose situation. The reluctor and the phaser I really don't know. Here's a possible scenario. I think the plastic timing chain guide was cracked or partially broken, and it finally just completely disintegrated. That was the rattling sound that he heard. With no guide, the timing chain started whipping around. That whipping caused a really nasty vibration in the exhaust cam, actually probably in both cams. The phasers also constantly adjust the cam position. It's possible the vibration and the cam phasers trying to correct the position created an unstable feedback loop that made the vibrations much worse. Eventually, that vibration broke the phaser and rotated the reluctor. That would also explain why only the exhaust cam was affected. The intake cam has an extra lobe for the GDI fuel pump, plus its mechanical timing is totally different, so it would have a different resonant frequency. The engine was probably still able to run because the mechanical timing of the cam was still correct, only the reluctor had moved. But once he shut the engine off, that's it. There's no oil pressure when you're cranking the engine, so the phaser can't correct the timing. Even if it could, the reluctor is 180 degrees out of position. The phaser only moves 20 degrees. And if it corrected the reluctor to the right position, now the mechanical timing is way out, and you're going to have even bigger problems. It's getting pretty serious. Got fancy graphics, actual notes, a wannabe podcaster mic. We got to answer the big question. What could have been done to prevent this whole debacle? In my opinion, not very much. The automotive industry is completely reactive. They never fix anything until the problem is so massive that they just can't ignore it anymore. I made this chart of different eras of automotive development versus unemployment. This is for the US, but should be pretty similar for most of the audience. Starting in the 60s, you had kind of the golden age of the automobile. We'll call this the vice grip garage era. If you want to be an automotive YouTuber, that's the sweet spot. There's a massive amount of survivor bias, but generally speaking, everybody loves these cars. By the early 70s, the party was over. New safety regulations made cars bigger and uglier. New emissions regulations brought us smog pumps, catalytic converters, charcoal canisters, feedback carburetors, electronic ignition. On top of that was a long recession, an oil embargo, and a decade of throwing the baby out with the bathwater in a mad rush to build smaller, cheaper cars. Luckily, things turned around in the 80s. Electronic fuel injection had a bit of a rocky start, but once we got it figured out and got a handle on the other emissions systems, we really entered what I think is another golden age of the automobile. And I'll bet dollars to donuts in the next 10 years, these cars are going to replace the 60s muscle cars. Just like the muscle cars replaced the hot rods, and the hot rods replaced the speedsters, and the speedsters replaced the penny farthing bicycles or whatever came before them. By the mid-2000s, history was primed to repeat itself. We had a bunch of new emissions and safety regulations that brought us things like high-speed CAN bus networks that were really safety systems designed to reduce the latency for airbags, but ended up infecting every corner of our cars. New materials like high-strength steel and aluminum, they were great for weight reduction, but they really complicated crash repairs. And you hear all the time about cars being totaled from what used to be basically a fender bender. Engines got smaller and a lot more complicated. Suddenly, everything had 4 timing chains and 2 turbos. We got a bunch of fun new acronyms, VVT, DOD, AFM, GDI. In the middle of that was a massive recession that nearly killed the entire automotive industry. Luckily, it was too big to fail. It took almost a decade to get a handle on things, but there was a very brief time where cars were sort of okay, and it looked pretty promising. But that came to a screeching halt in 2020. And since then, we've been in what I call the boogeyman era. And I haven't worked on a lot of these cars. I don't have a lot of first-hand experience with them, but my observation is that the prices skyrocketed and the quality at best stayed the same and at worst actually went down. It certainly seems like we are repeating the cycle. And there's been an endless stream of excuses for why that's happening. I suspect those excuses are also there to distract us from another big problem, which is that despite what the official numbers are telling us, the economy certainly seems a lot more shaky than what anybody wants to admit. I guess the point, if I have one, is that things change frequently and not always for the best. And there's just not that much we can do about it. Mostly these are reactions to outside forces over which we have very little control. It's easy to be pessimistic. We need to remember that things are still pretty good. Amazingly good, in fact. So, compared to the average car in 1965, the average car today lasts 2 times longer, has 2 times more power, unless it's a pickup truck, then it has 4 times more power. It uses half the fuel, creates 1/10 of the pollution, and it's 9 times safer. I mean, we've had some rough times, for sure, but generally, the trend has always been positive in terms of reliability, and there's no reason to think that it won't get better. There's a lot of well-justified skepticism about electric vehicles. Think whatever you want, but production EVs have been around for over a decade now, and it's looking like, statistically, they're more reliable than internal combustion engine cars. And surprisingly, at least it was surprising to me, they're longer lasting. The average EV battery life is now longer than the average vehicle life. And multiple companies are claiming 20 years of usable life on a lithium battery pack, which is incredible. Anyway, that's enough. Thanks for watching. And thanks a lot to the guys who throw in a few bucks over on Patreon. I really appreciate that. Thanks to them, this channel, with its meandering content and less than robust upload schedule, is sustainable, unlike owning a 2013 Chevy Equinox.